Hey everybody, I'm Ali Najad, and it's time for another edition of FTOPS 8 Final Table Highlights. Today we're going to take a look at event number 12, hosted by Lee Watkinson. It's the No Limit Hold'em with one rebuy and one add-on. Buy-in was $200, 961 players entered the field. Prize pool was $455,200, and first place would be earning more than $100,000. Taking a look at the stacks heading into the final table with the blinds at 10 and 20,000. Nobody below that dreaded 10 big blind threshold, though Ship It to BV was close. Up on top, Bad B Drew over $750,000, but in second place, Madame Maria, who had just finished second in event number 10, the $200 pot limit Omaha 8 or better. She was making a play to actually take home some hardware. We pick up the final table action. Blinds again were 10 and 20,000 with a $2,500 ante. It was folded around to Madame Maria. She would open the pot for a raise to 60,000. Then the action headed over to Dirtings. With over $500,000 in his stack, he would go deep into the tank, eventually requesting time. Perhaps he didn't want to gamble this early on, considering there were a couple of short stacks left in the form of Espo Kid and Ship It to BV. Ninth is only worth $7,700, whereas first is worth over $100,000. He would take an eternity before eventually shipping it all in for almost $540,000. Brandy would mug, and now it was on to Evils in the small blind. With under 15 seconds left to act, he too would request time. He was behind a raise and a re-raise. If he called, he would be all in. And he would make the call, putting his tournament life on the line. It was back over to Madame Maria, who folded, and it was pocket jacks for the Evils and pocket tens for Dirtings. Dirtings was in bad shape and could not hit a set or running straight cards after the flop, giving the Evils the pot and leaving Dirtings short stacked. The Evils had not only won the pot, but had taken over the chip lead up to over $1 million. Madame Maria folded over to Dirtings, whose stack was crippled at this point. He would ship it all in, knowing he was in desperate need of a few double-ups to get back into contention. It would get folded around to Bad Beat Drew in the big blind. He would make the call, showing A7 offsuit up against 10-9 offsuit. Flop was no help to Dirtings, and on the turn, he was drawing dead as Bad Beat Drew made a pair of aces, and Dirtings would say goodbye in 9th place, earning over $7,700. Blinds and the antes were steady, with 8 players remaining. Espo Kid would fold under the gun to Mr. Big Queso. He would do the same. With almost $850,000 in his stack, Bad Beat Drew laid his hand down. It was on Madame Maria. She would decide to play a pot, raising for the second time to $60,000. Didn't work out so well for her last time. Action was on Brandy, who would triple Madame Maria's raise, making it $180,000. Everybody would muck, and instead of just calling, Maria would ship it all in. She had Brandy covered. Brandy called and showed ace-king of hearts. She was up against 2 queens in a classic race. The flop was a disaster for Maria as an ace ball showed up. Turn in the river were no good, and Maria's stack was now crippled, while Brandy was the new chip leader. Blinds were up a touch to 12 and 24,000 with a 3K ante. Brandy folded to the Evils, who was second in chips. He'd make it $60,000. Action would get folded around to Madame Maria, who was short stacked and in the blind. She couldn't be happy with her current situation, having had her queen snapped off. She would ship it all in and show 6-7 of hearts after the Evils called with 10-9 suited. Madame flopped an open-ender and turned a pair, but the Evils hit a pair of tens on the river, sending Madame Maria home with $10,651. Down to 7 players, the Evils had taken a small chip lead over Brandy. Action would eventually get folded all the way around back to the Evils in the small blind. He would decide to put ship it to BV all in, and BV would call and show ace-6 of clubs against queen-8 off. The Evils out-flopped him, and on the turn, ship it to BV was drawing dead against trip queens as he hit the rail in 7th place with $13,656. Down to just 6 players, blinds were still 12 and 24 with the $2,500 ante. Action was folded around to the Evils. He would ship his entire almost $1.8 million into the pot, getting called all in by Mr. Big Queso's ace-queen. The Evils had king-10 of hearts. Mr. Big Queso would out-flop him, but on the river, the Evils made 2 pair kings and 10s, adding to his chip lead and sending Mr. Big Queso to the rail with $20,484 in 6th place. The shove fest would continue 5-handed, with Daraj finally deciding to play a pot. He would ship it in. S-Bo Kid, with over $300,000 in his stack, would call all in. Took him a little while to do so. Both blinds would fold, and it was ace-king against king-queen. Daraj had S-Bo in bad shape, especially after the flop. S-Bo would need running straight cards or running queens, and when the 6 of clubs hit the turn, it was all over for S-Bo Kid in 5th place with $28,450. Blinds had actually gone up last hand to $15,000 and $30,000 with a 4K ante. Action in this pot was folded around to Bad B Drew in the small blind. He would limp in and was covered by Brandy. She would make it $106,000 to go. $76,000 more for Drew to call. Instead of calling, though, he would ship it all in and roll over ace-5 offsuit against ace-10 offsuit. He out-flopped Brandy, and on the turn, both players made aces. Aces up for Bad B Drew. Brandy could not hit a 10 on the river, and Drew would double through her. Brandy was left with the short stack after doubling up Bad B Drew. Under the gun, she would raise all in, $420,000 and change. Action was on chip leader the Evils on the button. He, of course, had both of the players left to act behind him covered as he shipped in over $2.5 million. Bad B Drew would call all in and show ace-king of clubs. The Evils had ace-king of diamonds, while Brandy had the best hand with a couple of 6s. On the flop, the Evils had a nut flush draw. Brandy's 2 6s held on the turn, but when a diamond hit the end, the Evils would eliminate 2 players at once. Brandy in 4th, taking home $37,000 and change, and Bad B Drew in 3rd, taking home $48,000 and change. That last pot had guaranteed Daraj 21 at least an extra $30,000, the difference between 4th and 2nd place, as in the first hand a heads up, both players would get it all in. Daraj outflopped the Evils, but on the river, the Evils would make a pair of queens to best Daraj's pair of 10s and take down the event. So the Evils would take down over $100,000, while Daraj was left with $66,000. Not too shabby at all as we look at the rest of the payouts. Don't forget the $500 No Limit Hold'em main event happens May 18th. That's hosted by Jennifer Harmon. If you'd like to qualify for that or any of our other remaining FTOPS 8 events, simply go to Full Tilt Poker, click the Tournaments tab, and then the Satellites tab. If you'd like to play a little horse with yours truly, go to the Mixed Games tab and scroll down to the 816 horse table entitled Ali Najad. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of FTOPS 8 Final Table Highlights. Until next time, for Full Tilt Poker, this is Ali Najad saying so long.